Talking Music with Big Andy. In this episode, Ralph Beeby is talking music with me, Big Andy. Hello and welcome to the podcast. This week I am talking to Ralph Beeby, who is if I got this right, you're the bass player with Cherry White, but you recorded on your own under the name of Ralph Beeby and the Elephant Collective.
That's correct, yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So, what made you decide to go solo with and do your own stuff? Was it a departure musically, or was it just?
No, not necessarily. It was always there's always been something as a side thought in the back of my mind that I might do this one day, and I think, after a few years of playing with Cherry White, because I've been with them since 2011, I want to say, and I'd contributed to the writing of the songs, not as much as Russell, our guitarist. He wrote the majority of our material, but whilst I was contributing to the writing and having a great time doing that, it was quite clear that I had some ideas which were a bit too dark or weird or just eccentric for their tastes. I've got a few writing credits in that back catalogue, but there's definitely a few songs I put in front of them where I think they just didn't know what to make of it. So I thought I think that kind of reignited the idea of striding out on my own path to get this stuff out of my system, because it had always been there in a slightly nascent form. Prior to Cherry White, I fronted a blues trio, which was called variously White Elephant or the White Elephant Blues Band, and I think that's where I'd first honed my writing style, but that one sort of it kind of withered on the vine as Cherry White gained momentum. Partly because the Cherry White had always strove to be a professional endeavour, whereas the White Elephant thing, whilst it was great fun, the other two were quite clear that it was only ever going to be a hobby for them. So I moved my focus more to Cherry White, but then I think that style it stayed with me, and I wanted to explore it further and get back to it a bit. And so the Elephant Collective was I thought it would be a nod to that old lineup and those days. So whilst it's not a complete revival of that, partly because the other two aren't involved at the moment anyway, it's a nod to those days, and I've certainly in the live shows I've revived a few of the songs that I wrote for them, which has been good fun to revisit them. And so it's an opportunity for me to do something a bit different, a bit more me, if you like.
It's interesting, the description of the music you play. Now, I've seen it. I've been through a few different websites that described as dark folk blues for misfits and lost souls, and it's also blues folk with overtones of Gothic Americana. And I've seen it described as being sort of mix of Bert Jansch, Ralph McTell, and Tom Waits, which I don't know, but to me it's a little bit of a confusing mix.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think I'm still struggling to define it myself, because there's the blues, and there's different strands of the blues, but it's not like it's not like metal where everything is neatly delineated into subgenres. You know, metal fans understand the difference between speed metal and thrash metal and black metal and all the rest. And I think within blues, it's kind of recognized that there's a Chicago style, there's a Memphis style, and there was a in the 60s there was like a British blues style, where like groups like the Yardbirds and Cream were doing something a bit different with it, but it's never been as clearly delineated into these subgenres. So I think I've struggled finding a cozy pigeonhole for it, because certainly the first few releases there was a lot. It was all fingerstyle guitar and voice. So I was drawing a lot on Bert Jansch and Davy Graham and Ralph McTell and that. But then I think the songwriting style's always had a bit of a spiritual home that's closer to Tom Waits or Nick Cave. Yeah. And then I find myself moving back more towards the ensemble stuff. So it's no longer just acoustic guitar, slide guitar and all that. So folk blues seemed like a good slot for it, at least to begin with. But then I worry that folk blues isn't that well defined.
See, personally, I really don't like the pigeonhole thing of genres, because it's just, to me, it's just good music. It doesn't matter what style you want to call it, but everyone seems to have to want to give everything a label. I've never been a fan of that.
I know what you mean. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because on the one hand, most of these labels become meaningless once you start whittling it down. But on the other hand, you know, if you don't do it, then you meet someone and they say, well, what kind of music do you play? And you go, right, have you got 10 minutes?
Yeah, I know. I must admit, my favourite thing is definitely the Facebook page, the story when you go into About Ben. The story there, which is after 5 years in the wilderness, a man came upon a clearing in the forest, and the man recognized the clearing, for he was once again in a place that he knew, and in that place he found the body of the elephant, the friend he had left behind back when he first set off into the wilderness. It's a perfect description of what the band is, I suppose.
I suppose that's poetic flight of fancy. Perhaps I've been overdoing it on the Moody Blues that day, but
it just struck me after reading lots of things where it says we were formed in Brighton in 2010, and then we did this. It's kind of interesting to read something like that.
Yeah, I suppose it's probably my own slight guilt at leaving the old White Elephant ensemble behind, and then letting it die basically, and gather dust, and then because I wasn't just playing in Cherry White at the time. I was when it first started, I think I was playing on and off in something like 7 different bands around London.
Yeah.
Luckily, they didn't have particularly busy schedules. Otherwise, I think I would have had to split myself in 2 or more to keep up with it. But it was literally like throwing as much mud at the wall as possible and hoping something would stick. I don't know. I shouldn't be so. I don't mean that to sound dismissive at all. I think I learned a lot that way. not least of all, just slotting into a band with a group of people you've literally just met that night, and having a call sheet on the stage at your feet for you to glance at if the lights happen to be pointing in the right direction. But yeah, I guess it was it was a way to make that story a bit more meaningful than just I left an old band behind and felt guilty about it, so I decided to half revive it.
That's good. Can I ask, before we move on to talk about the music in particular, why the obsession with elephants?
The weird thing is, I don't know if it's elephants particularly. If anything, I actually feel more affinity for crows than for elephants. But that's a whole other story altogether.
No, it's just it just struck me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I completely understand. I used to be in a band called Clickety Elephant, so that was named after a drunken discussion about bingo calling. So anyway, let's have a look at a clip from a video.
Stan, simple young man, knew his own town like the back of his hand. No great vision, no great plan, just a footnote, just an also ran. Our man Stan could have gone one better, our man Stan could have done much better. Our man Stan left alone unfettered, chasing no gain, chasing no vendetta. Our man Stan, our man Stan.
You put your first single out in 2017, is that right? Animal?
Yes, Animal, that was the one, yes. Christ, it was 2017. Where's the time gone? Yes, Animal was where it began.
And you've done a few EPs in that sense then. You've got a new one out now, is that right?
Hold on. I've boxed them behind me. Here we go. Another swing of the side. This is the this is well, it's another EP, but it ended up being a double EP. So it's actually, we can't really see it's two discs, but yeah, two EP in the same sleeve.
So do you record all that at home? Do you go to a recording studio and do that?
This became very much a labour of lockdown. Right. I was forced to do everything at home. I mean, I had some recording gear already, but it became a question of seeing what I could do at home, especially given that I wanted to include other instruments on this one. Okay. Farming out jobs to a few other people remotely, because there are other musicians on this one for the first time. The previous two I did by myself. But there are guest performers on this one. Actually, only on 3 tracks, but that's it's still 3 more than I've had previously, and I feel like I've learned a lot about putting a record together. I felt like, because I've been in studios before, I thought, I know how to make a record. I've done this before, and actually doing it all by yourself and slotting everything together, and having to sort of serve as your own producer as well. I feel like, I thought I knew a lot about making a record. Now I know more about making a record, and I've probably realized that I don't actually know as much as I thought I did.
So was it done digitally or on the computer?
Yeah.
What sort of software did you use?
I am. This is where my geek side shows through, because I'm a big Foss fan. So I was using a program called Ardour on top of an Ubuntu Linux OS. I picked one of these up ages ago, Focusrite USB recording interface, which I could connect a couple of mics to. Yeah, as far as software was concerned, I managed to do it all in that. It's yeah, I mean, I don't know how it compares to the the stuff that you pay for, like your Pro Tools and Reaper's free up to a point, isn't it? Only up to a point. But yeah, I'm not sure how it compares to the stuff that you pay for. But I had a friend who did all his recording in Ardour, and I was quite encouraged by the results that he was getting out of it. Though he never let on how long he spent mixing his tracks, so maybe that was the secret to it. But it gave me some hope that it could be done with a very restricted setup. Yeah.
I think personally, as far as the software thing goes, I hear lots of people say about which one's better, which one sounds best, which one. I think if you've got something that you found that you could use that gives you the sound you want, then that's all you need to have. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be top of the range stuff. It doesn't have to be any particular make. If you've got something that, as I say, you find easy to use and that gives you the sort of sound you want for your music, then that's perfect for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, and I mean, further to that, it's about knowing what to do with it as well. Because I know that some of the very first recordings I made with Ardour sounded incredibly murky, and I feel like now I've got to know it, and I've got to know the plugins and everything, and how you get a reasonable sound out of it. Then it's fine. But if you then transplant me to a different studio and put me in front of a copy of, let's say, Pro Tools for sake of argument, I guarantee I could make it sound instantly terrible by not knowing the first thing about what to do with it.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It's just a matter of, I think it's one of those things that sometimes it's best to learn on the job. You just sort of you get you record the music and then you play around with it and see what you can get from it. The good thing about it is 9 times out of 10, whatever you do, you can always change or undo.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest boon of doing it digitally is that you've always got to, like you say, undo, Control Z to give you that freedom to get it wrong, if you like.
Yeah. So you've been doing live streaming.
Yeah.
While you've been on lockdown, how's that been going? Have you had a lot of feedback from that, or?
Yeah, actually, it's gone well. I must admit, I went into it not knowing what to expect. I did a few live streams before it all kicked off, pre-pandemic. Yeah. And but I never got into a regular rhythm with them. I think it was almost like I needed this change of circumstances to force me to commit to doing a regular show. And yeah, initially I started doing it 3 times a week. Can you believe? Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 9 p.m. without fail. And then after a few months, I realized that, between three weekly live streams and the day job and everything else, I was getting nothing else done. So I decided, right, if I'm ever going to make this EP, for example, or get any sleep, I need to drop one of them. So I dropped the Wednesday session. Now I just do Mondays and Fridays. I think partly because I've, naively assumed that things might be returning to normal by the end of the summer or something, and obviously they didn't. So so if the pandemic wasn't going to go away, then I was going to have to change my my schedule. But yeah, it's been really good. I feel like it's really helped to develop a relationship with my audience, which I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, because I wouldn't have been able to get out there and actually play and meet them in person. So I'm actually able to have something resembling a conversation with them this way. I've had a few people actually say that it gives them something to look forward to on a Friday evening. It's reliable as a source of entertainment, and that's actually very flattering. It's obviously lovely to see them, but it actually confirms to me that they're not just turning up out of a sense of obligation. They're actually there because they enjoy it, which is just perfect validation, really. And it's become more natural as well. I think I think one of the things that put me off doing it before was the fact that I felt very awkward just singing at a laptop.
Yeah.
I'd spent so many years, getting used to walking on stage and doing my set, that suddenly to perform not to nobody, because you're very aware that there are going to be people on the other side of that internet connection watching you, but when you can't see them, it's it's very odd.
Can't even do it with all the lights out, so you can pretend you're on stage, because then they will see you.
Exactly.
Here's another video clip. So well, hopefully now things are looking like they might get back to normal. Yeah. When that comes down, I assume you're going to want to get out there and start gigging again. Is there going to be any conflict between doing your own stuff and playing with Cherry White?
At the moment, no. Two reasons. One is that Cherry White went on a bit of a hiatus before this all happened. Okay. Things wound down a bit in 2018. We didn't play many gigs, and everyone's in different parts of the globe at the moment. So I think I'm the only current member of the band who's still in London. It's not quite clear what we're going to do next. I think, actually, no, that's not true. I know what's happening next. There is an EP coming out from Cherry White, which has been done remotely between Russell and me, mostly Russell. I think I've only contributed some bass on that. And there's not a plan to get back out and gigging anytime in the immediate future. With my own stuff, this is the other reason. I do want to go out and play, but I think I I made a bit of a resolution when I started doing this that I would be a lot more selective about the gigs I would play. Not to be sniffy about the small barroom gigs and that. It's just I think it was more that I felt I'd already paid my dues going around the Camden toilet circuit and all the rest, and I'd also seen a lot of bands break their backs doing this over and over again and not get anywhere with it. So I thought, I concluded that this probably wasn't going to work for me, and that also that I didn't want to be doing small gigs to 2 people and a dog. So I will play gigs, but I will be a lot more selective about which ones I take.
Right, that's fair. That's reasonable. I think the longer you do this for, the more you get to the point where it starts getting to you want to start something new, you will have to do all of that again.
Yeah, like you. I think it's just you start to value your own time more. I certainly don't have the same levels of energy I did 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think partly lockdowns knocked some of that out of the swing. Kind of, I think everyone's become a bit kind of like, we all just sleep.
Yeah, it really has.
Okay, so as far as the music goes from here on, you've obviously got the new EP to promote and to get out there and that sort of thing. But what after that? What are you looking to do? More EP home recording, or would you like to go out to do it in proper studios? You said you got guest musicians on this one. Are you looking to expand into having a full band?
Yeah, I think the next project is, or at least the next milestone I need to get to is to do a full album as The Elephant Collective, because that's one thing I haven't done. Even though Spotify thinks the last 2 EPs were actually albums, Spotify's wrong. So I'd like to do a proper album, and I think I'm in 2 minds as to whether to take it to a studio or whether to do it at home again, because actually I quite enjoyed the experience of recording it all at home and having that creative control. It's there's the practical question of whether I'll be able to record drums and things like that. I know a lot of it can be done at home and even silently without pissing the neighbors off, so that's always a plus. But drums, vocals, and any other noisy instruments that I might want to add, like if I want to get some sax on there or anything else, maybe I'll have to go to a studio. Maybe I'll have to find somebody who can do it remotely. I need to make some decisions there. Maybe conduct some experiments with a drum kit and some microphones once I can get my hands on the necessary gear. I think I suppose that will be the other shift with the album, would be to move it to more of a band format. What's less clear is how much of that I'd record myself and how much I'd get people in to contribute parts to it. Lots of decisions to be made. But I have to keep telling myself not to keep thinking about them, because I have an EP to promote and I don't want to get carried away with the next project. This is always the danger. You finish one, you want to get started on the next. But actually you need to push it out there and make sure people hear what you've just done before it's worth actually recording another one that they won't hear.
I think sometimes that's where big bands or bands that have been out there for a long time kind of they stop promoting. What they do is they put an album out, they expect that all the fans are going to buy it anyway, so they don't bother going out there and doing the interview circuit, that kind of thing. They just start working on the the next product, effectively, and it starts to become a bit like a sort of a manufacturing situation rather than making music, you know. And they kind of lose some of the feeling of the music, I think, that way. But yeah, no, you've got to promote your EP. That's part of the thing about being an independent musician, is you need to do that whole promotion thing yourself. There's nobody out there to do it for you. You know, you don't have a promoter or publicist or anything out there sort of selling it to people.
Well, I mean, it's not like people don't offer. I get plenty of very spammy messages from people saying, go to this website, DM me for 5,000 Instagram followers for just $50 or something, and that looks legit.
Have you had any interest at all from like radio stations or anybody to play your music or anything like that?
There's a few stations have played some of the stuff we've done previously, and I think actually, I'm not sure. Now I think about it, I've sent a lot of emails, and I'm trying to remember whether I've had many responses back from any radio stations who said yes, we will play this. Possibly not. Now I think about it. I know a few radio stations played some of the singles off the last two EPs. So Animal, Powerless, Our Man Stan, all got a spin on various small independent stations.
One more clip from one more video.
Hordes of swarming people, still no warmth of human contact, hemmed in by the towers like a prison, claustrophobic. Sometimes I could leave here, leave no traces, leave no memory.
I think also, I mean, from my point of view, being somebody who's really into films and especially short independent films, there's quite a bit of your music that I think would lend itself well to being used in a film, because it does have that kind of that darkness. I mean, I review horror and sci-fi films, so it does have that kind of dark edge that you can use in those sort of situations to kind of underline what's going on in the film. And I think a good use, really, a good way to put them out there. And you've got a couple of instrumentals on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, there were hang on. Yeah, there were 3 instrumental tracks on the second EP, Imperfect Cadence. And actually there is one on the new one. I keep forgetting there's an instrumental on there because it's the because the 2 discs, one side is the songs in their acoustic format, the other side is their electric format.
Right.
So the opening track on the first disc was a cappella, so I thought, if I'm going to do the counterpart to this on the electric side, I might as well do it instrumental. One side no instruments, the other side no voice. So yeah, there's a few which are entirely instrumental.
I mean, they would lend themselves perfectly to being used in a film setting or situation. So anybody out there who makes short films, go and have a listen to these tracks. Yes, have a listen, see what you think. I'm sure if you contacted Ralph, you'd be more really interested in you using them in your films. See how it goes. Well, all I can say, thank you very much for joining me.
Oh, thank you
for being on the show and talking to me today. I hope that everything goes well with you. I love your music. I think it has got a very, I wouldn't say a completely unique sound, but it does have a sound of its own. And it's very good music and worth listening to. So anybody out there who's watching, go and have a listen. Thank thank you very much, and I will talk to you again hopefully someday.
I hope so. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks to everybody for joining us on the show, and take it easy, and we'll see you again next time. Bye. Talking Music with Big Andy.